Derrick McManus, former South Australian Star Group officer who survived multiple gunshot wounds in the line of duty. Extraordinary stories of adversity, human durability, and of course, inspirations. His 42 years of service meant that he had a lot of stories to share, but tonight, I'll bet briefly. I want to take a moment to remind the audience or warn the audience there are images and references to shooting, flesh wounds, injuries, and references to trauma. If you would, please. Thank you.
As I approached that glass sliding door, I had absolutely no idea what was happening to me. All I knew was I was suddenly falling to the ground, and I started berating myself. Derrick, what the fuck's going on? You idiot, you're falling at such an important time. I hadn't felt any impact. I didn't hear the sound of gunfire. All I knew was I was falling to the ground, and I was a highly trained Star Group operative. This should not be happening. But with understanding comes insight. With insight comes clarity. With clarity, we can find calm. As I was falling to the ground, I looked at that glass sliding door, and there were small round holes that hadn't been there just a moment before. And then I heard the sound of gunfire somewhere in the distance behind it. And as I was falling to the ground, I rationalised, small round holes, sound of gunfire, I must be falling because I'm getting shot. And the thought that ran through my head as I'm berating myself was, Derrick, don't be too hard on yourself. If you're getting shot, it's quite acceptable to fall over. And that's exactly what I thought. That I don't embellish that any way, shape or form. But I fell to the ground. I fell onto my back. The shooter was still shooting. He fired twice into my left thigh. These bullets I felt. It wasn't pain. It was just the impact of a sledgehammer driving into my thigh, and time slowed down. It seemed to take 30 seconds for what was in reality that long. The bullets hit me. First one like a sledgehammer. Shockwave went slowly through my body, all the way up and all the way back down. The second one hit, and again it's that sledgehammer driving into my thigh. Shockwave up, shockwave back down. I knew I needed to fire back because I realised that's the only way he was going to stop. But before I fired back, I rationalised that I'm firing along the length of my body. At the other end of my body are my legs, and at the other end of my legs are my feet. And which way do your feet point when you're lying on your back? Up in the air. And I realised I needed to get up just that little bit so I could shoot over the top of my feet. But I've got weaponry, I've got equipment, I've got a flak vest on my upper body. And as I lift my upper body up, my feet come up to counterbalance. And you're laughing already. As I went to pull that trigger on that first bullet and return fire, the thought that ran through my head was I better not shoot myself in the foot because the guys at work will give me shit for the rest of my life. Now, I'm not light-hearted to diminish what happened to me or to diminish what happens to anybody else in war and service capacities. But it is one of the tools that we in service use to break the tension of the traumas that we're going through. And many people will say, if you can laugh, you can get through anything. Laughter is the best medicine. And it is good to break the tension, but it is not the tool that is going to solve the trauma that follows. We need to have the tools to follow that. I was then lying on the ground for 3 hours, conscious for the entire 3 hours. And I'm going to show you some of the photographs of very graphic photos of injuries that I was dealing with at that time, just to give you some perspective of just how bad it was. And I like to give the warning that they are graphic, because some people are sort of going, we've just had snacks. They didn't tell us it was going to be like this. So if you don't like them, please feel free to zone out, leave, come back, whatever you need to do. As I scanned the audience, though, I did notice a couple of people just sort of shift in their chair, as if, oh, it's going to get interesting now. So there's lots of different perspectives, but these are some of the injuries that I was dealing with. This is me lying on a stretcher on the ground for 3 hours. The doctor in the top left-hand corner, Dr. Bill Griggs, got to me 10 minutes prior to this photograph being taken. I'd been on the ground for 3 hours, continuously bleeding for 3 hours, lost so much blood that my vision had even closed down, so there wasn't enough blood going to my brain to keep that vision going. He didn't know whether I was dead or alive, and he slided me into the back of the ambulance, having stood for 10 minutes in direct line of fire to stabilise me. Bullets whizzing around his ears, around his team's ears, and around my mate's ears as they supported him as well. This is my left forearm. Single bullet hit my left forearm. That is the exit wound from a 7.62 full metal jacket. Hit my left forearm, hit the radius, broke the radius in 2 places. It also severed the radial artery and stretched nerves, damaged tendons. This is my right Achilles tendon. A single bullet went through my right Achilles tendon, took out 80% of the thickness of my Achilles for about an inch, inch and a half. And as I stand here today, I've still only got 20% of my Achilles tendon holding together. And this photograph was taken just 5 days after the shooting. And the comment that I get most about this is, how can you be smiling just 5 days after the shooting? Now, that's a much deeper story, but some of it comes down to my insight into our mental health. I was lying on the ground for 3 hours, conscious, dealing with those injuries, dealing with my mindset, understanding what my body and what my mind was going to go through. I was well prepared for what I could realistically expect to encounter as a result of the job that I had chosen to do. Unfortunately, not everybody approaches their challenges as proactively as I did. We are all aware of what those challenges are, but sometimes we don't have conversations about it. I proactively had conversations with my wife at the time. I'm going into a job where I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. My conversation was not all about me. It was, if I die, what will your life look like? What support will you have? What choices will you make in the future? And then I also had a conversation that if I don't die, these are the things that I am going to be doing. Now, that was very proactive, and not many people actually take that step. We all know it's there, and I'm not diminishing the responsibility that people take, but having those conversations more proactively, we can get better results. We really can. And this is where the digital hub of Resolute Ready comes to the fore. And actually, no, leave it on that slide, my apologies. 5 days after the shooting, I threw my hand in the air and said, get me a psych, I want to talk to a psych. It took 3 months to get a psych to me. That's another conversation altogether. But I was very fortunate to link up with Dr. Sandy McFarlane just 3 months after the shooting. I sat down with Dr. Sandy and he discussed with me what I might be going through. I discussed with him what my insights were. I knew that there could be flashbacks, traumas, panic attacks, PTSD, all those sorts of things. And the discussion that we had, at the end of that discussion, he said, Derrick, psychologically, you can go back to work tomorrow, and I didn't need any ongoing therapy. Physically, it took me 2.5 years, but psychologically, I was cleared just 3 months after the shooting. I was very fortunate. 30 years ago, I was prepared to ask those questions, get that information. Most of us don't do that, and particularly guys. We don't throw our hand in the air and say, I need these resources, I need these insights. We try to be strong and do it for ourselves. Resolute Ready is providing those services, early intervention. The sooner we get help, the sooner we take action, the more options we have available to us. The longer it takes, we get reduced to the acute and the critical options available to us, which means that we've got fewer options. However, with Resolute Ready, you can go to that website at any time and get those resources. The digital backpack is the next step on, and we're taking care of families. We're taking care of families. Lydia is taking care of families, as well as the Resolute Ready hub and all the support that you have behind you. We're taking care of kids. We're giving them information proactively. We're providing it to their teachers, the unique insights into veterans and first responder families that they need. With that little bit of information, that little bit of proactive knowledge, we can make significant changes in how trauma affects our children and our families. And I thank you all for coming here to support it tonight. There's 5 things that I'd like to leave you with before I leave the stage. And these are what I call my 5 drivers for success. We need to have a sense of optimism. All right? Optimism is what drives our passion, our drive for success. It keeps us inspired and pushing forward. We need to have that sense of optimism. Resolute Ready is providing that for many people. We need to believe in our ability to influence our future. We need to have meaning in our life. And that meaning has to be something that's important to us, not just to someone else. It's got to be personally meaning to us. We've got to have some sort of plan for action. Resolute Ready provides that information where we can start creating that plan. And the most important of all is what Resolute Ready is doing the most, is providing support for those people in need. But those people in need to be putting their hand in the air and saying, I need these resources. We need to be having these discussions more proactively. So I thank you all again for coming here tonight. To finish off my story of lying on the ground, spoiler alert, I did survive. It took me 2.5 years, but I went back to work fully operational, no restrictions, back into Star Group, back into counter-terrorist operations as a sniper and a diver and all the rest of it. The discussion that I had with Sandy McFarlane empowers the work I do now in some leadership forums that I run, and I'm absolutely passionate about what Resolute Ready has in its potential for everybody in the future. But success is not driven by one person, and there's someone in the room tonight that probably won't get a lot of recognition. One of the primary supports, Susan Harrigan, for Lydia. I was very fortunate to become the first ambassador for Resolute Ready, and it was these two ladies who met with me and harassed me and would not let me leave until I said, yes, I will. And big high fives down the front here, it's great. But it is my privilege to be that first ambassador and give whatever I can to support. Thank you very much.